Yeah, I couldn't say a whole lot. I mean, I talked to Zac a little bit, and I think, yeah, he was pretty much expecting, okay, wherever Raheem Morris goes. Raheem was close in Seattle and Atlanta as far as getting opportunities. I'd heard rumblings that the Belichick stuff had cooled in Atlanta.
Right.
And then that got out into the media. Hey, they're going to have Bobby Slowick at Arthur Blank's house. They had Bobby over. And, you know, that Raheem Morris, that they were keen to get Raheem Morris back in the building. And I think Zac did want to pair with him, even though he was he interviewed with the Saints and was being asked to interview with the Steelers and the Patriots for a return interview. I do think that connection was an important one.
Yeah, and that again, I think, says something about Raheem Morris. Like, Zac could have gone and been an offense coordinator somewhere else. He could have gone out on his own. He could have branched out. He could have taken a different job. And instead, I think he was very keen to stick with Raheem Morris as his offensive coordinator, which, even if it's purely a selfish motivation, is like a good thing for Raheem Morris's, outlook. Like, if it was purely because Zac thinks that's in his best interest, and I'm not saying it is, like, it means he thinks Raheem Morris is the best option he could have going forward.
So, yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Zac going to Atlanta. But first, is 2024 bringing exciting or unexpected changes to your life? Well, here's a secret weapon to help you face those challenges with more confidence. It's a great term life insurance policy. Yes, for real. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to protect your family's financial future, so you can focus on what's ahead, knowing your family is protected as if something else unexpected happens. Fabric was designed by parents for parents to help you get a high-quality, surprisingly affordable term life insurance policy in less than 10 minutes. Fabric has flexible policies that fit your family and your budget, like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Get your personalized quote in just minutes and then apply when it's convenient for you. It's all online and on your schedule. You can go from start to covered in less than 10 minutes with no health exam required. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. So Zac's going to get the OC job in Atlanta. And I just want to say, like, from a PFF history standpoint, we have Zac and Bobby. We talk a lot about them on the show. Mm-hmm. But we hired them at times when Bobby was in transition between coaching in the NFL and, needing something to do.
Yeah.
And, we were there to it was a good fit with Bobby, right? Zac was similar, where he was, fresh out of the NFL,
right,
trying to figure out how he was going to get in.
As a player, in his case, right?
Right, as a player. And, Bobby coming out as a coach. We've had other players and former coaches. We've had several players and former coaches who have worked with us, and some who still work with us and everything. And I don't want to say Bobby and Zac were the best, but they were the first that really worked out. Mm-hmm. And I think a big part of it was they came in, and look, these guys, like, they're smart guys, right? They're calling plays in the NFL right now.
Right, evidently, yeah.
They came in and learned our system. Like, sounds ridiculous, right? We're just, you're just a bunch of dudes from the British Isles that made up a grading system. But they came in and learned our system, so to speak, right? They learned how to do the PFF grading. They learned what we were doing. They didn't come in and they were like, you idiots, you have no idea. I'm an NFL coach. I'm an NFL player.
Right.
I'm a star quarterback from Oklahoma State. They didn't come in.
Let me fix everything you're doing.
Yeah. Now, but at some point, they were able to interject their expertise into this. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it worked out so well. Bobby being here for 2+ years and Zac being here for, 2 to 3 years, grading the quarterbacks and putting the final grade on every quarterback. They came in, learned our stuff first, learned the system and the process, and then helped refine it, and then helped make it better. And they made us better.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so that was what was most impressive to me about those guys coming in, that they showed a humility to come in, learn what we're doing, and then in turn made it better. And we had a great dialogue and great back and forth, and they made our grading better, and they made our process better. And I think that's a big part of where their success comes from now at the NFL level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, without bringing everything back to J.J. Watt, I don't think you can improve on something if you don't understand it to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think both those guys did an amazing job. It's not like the thing was perfect before they arrived, but you couldn't, if from their perspective, you couldn't walk in and go, okay, I'm gonna overhaul these grades without having any idea how they worked in the first place. So you've got to go through that process of learning it and then finding where areas of improvement exist to then go and help make it better and improve the process and all those kinds of things. And, I would like to think that on this show, we've done a reasonable job of pointing out where there are flaws in the grading or where there are blind spots or weak areas. And, there is a sort of constant strive to improve those things, or at least acknowledge, that's where the weaknesses are. And this is why you don't just say number X is bigger than number Y, therefore player X is better than player Y. But none of that makes any sense without understanding how it functions, right? As opposed to just, like, I don't like this number, therefore I'm going to shout about it.
Yeah, the other aspect of that was, you mentioned Bobby being on both sides of the ball, and I think we get into this rut in analysis, and I call you out for it sometimes too, right? Like there was Todd Pinkston? Todd Pinkston's a running back coach. So he was a skinny wide receiver. So you're instantly like how's he going to coach the running backs?
I mean, if you ask somebody what's the one thing that you remember from Todd Pinkston's NFL career, they would probably tell you alligator arms. Now, that guy is going into a running back's room yelling at them for not being, physical enough between the tackles. I just think that's kind of funny.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's like you're going to correct your daughter on something that you did wrong somewhere along the line.
I'm just saying,
Dad, you did it. And it's like, well, I know better now.
My point in those things has not been that you can't do that. It's just been that it lands harder when the person giving you that message has not automatically run foul of that message previously.
I just think that it happens in baseball all the time. If you're a pitcher, people think you don't know anything about hitting. If you're a hitter, they think you don't know anything about pitching. When it's like, okay, I mean, so Zac was a receivers coach before. And just because he was a quarterback doesn't mean he can't coach the receivers. Bobby was a defensive coach.
No, but it's
easier. And I think
easier.
Sometimes your mentality is, well, you only understand defense, you don't understand offense. But it's not always the case.
It's not that. It's the first impression of buy-in, right? If Randy Moss walks into a room with a bunch of wide receivers and wants to impart some wisdom on them, every single one of those guys is immediately going to listen to what he says, buy in 100%, and absolutely accept it as gospel truth, right? If random-ass backup quarterback, I don't know, pick your favorite. Who's your favorite random-ass backup quarterback right now that's about to transition into coaching because their career is finally coming to an end?
Right now?
Yeah, who's your favorite?
I don't know, Matt Castle.
Okay, Matt Castle walks into the same room. There's a portion of that room is not going to buy into what he says right away because it's Matt Castle, not Randy Moss, right? Now, if Matt Castle turns out to be a great NFL coach and, becomes a wide receiver coach down the line, that will get him the same buy-in as the Randy Moss thing. It's just going to take longer, and it's going to require, that thing to happen. It's the previous evidence that he's really good at this that's going to give him the buy-in. Randy Moss has it out of the gate. That's my only point with that stuff. There's a period of time where if anyone even remembers who the hell Todd Pinkston is, they're not buying in to, hey, you got to be physical between the tackles, right? Because you're like, what? I've seen your tape.
So it matters for one day.
Well, it matters until you believe that the guy's a good coach.
I guess the point I was trying to make in all this was Bobby was a defensive coach, transitioned to the offensive side of the ball, and I think that experience on both sides helps to quell some of those concerns. It takes care of those concerns.
And the flip side of that, by the way, is it matters as well for the first few days, or for the initial buy-in if you're not good, right? You get a grace period if you happen to have an automatic layer of credibility on the area that you're talking about, right? So you bring in, whatever former great running back or former great position coach, whatever it is, you put him with that position, you have an immediate sort of grace period where people just assume he knows what he's doing because he was great at that, even if he doesn't. So if you need hey, we got to smooth the road for this guy to sort of ease him into coaching, that makes sense because you get this period of automatic buy-in because of what he did as a player.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it matters a ton, but I get what you're saying. The points I was trying to make was, so here's a little flashback to Zac. When we had Renner. Remember, Renner said that he could run a 4.6?
Yes.
Was it?
I got to find that video, actually.
He did not run a 4.6, but Zac was our referee for the day. He was running the stopwatch, and we had a fun little video. There was also, I don't know, in post, we need to get the video of Zac's big-time throw when I torched you
It's
off the
in
line
that
of
video,
scrimmage.
I think,
Yeah, it's in
right?
the video. I torched you off the line of scrimmage, and this is we were doing a little like office style, talking about the event and everything. But I torched you off the line of scrimmage, beat you deep, and Zac put it right on me. Plus 1.5, big time throw, right on my hands.
It was a spectacular throw. It was a truly pitiful piece of receiving from you. Who, they talk about late hands.
50-yard touchdown, man.
They talk about late hands, and the idea being
Torched.
you're supposed to put the hands up late so that it's too late for the DB to react to what you're doing and play through your hands. You put your hands up like 7.5 minutes before the ball arrived, to the point where, like, when the ball arrived, I was like, I'd given up, assuming that the ball was going to arrive at that point.
You underestimated my speed. So anyway, all the points I wanted to make with all this, I got asked somewhere on radio, what would Zac bring to the table? And I remember I mentioned on the show before, if I was hiring a couple of years ago, I might actually hire him on the defensive side of the ball.
You said that a long time ago.
I said that a long time ago. And the reason was, when we would do our podcast, in the PFF NFL podcast back in 2016, 17, when he was around, when he was here, it was the big time throwcast. We experimented with having different hosts and whatever. And Zac and I we were on the feed on like a Tuesday doing QB reviews. And the insight that he would bring to the table, we'd break down like 3 QB games in depth. And he would bring insight not just on what the QB did, but how he would attack the quarterback. And I thought he was really good at saying, hey, one thing sticks out. Like Dak Prescott was coming off a bad game, and they were going up against the Bucs defense the next week. He's like, he's going to tear up this Bucs defense because I know Dak's strengths and I know their defensive weaknesses. He's going to mesh well against that defense. I thought Zac was really good at identifying those types of things, to the point where I was like, well, if you could see where a quarterback's going to kill you, I want you on the defensive side of the ball and say, let's not do that and attack him. And not just schematically, but also just from like a quarterback skill set standpoint. And I think a lot of times I might be overrating this a little bit. I do think a lot of game planning is just scheme based, right? Here are the plays they run. Here are the plays we're going to run defensively to stop those plays, right? To have answers to those plays. And I don't know if teams do a great job of attacking a player's weakness and saying a quarterback is comfortable or uncomfortable doing these particular things. I think Zac would have been great at that. And it's not just a skill set for the defensive side of the ball. I just thought that really stood out to me. But I thought he had a good feel for what, as a former quarterback, what receivers need to be doing. What does QB friendly look like for a receiver? Receivers who have feel. He loved Mahomes, Zac, right? He loved Mahomes and his playmaking. He was higher on Mahomes than any of us that particular year, because he said this dude just knows he just feels the game, and a natural, instinctive playmaker. So if you say like Atlanta's picking at 8, who are they going to pick at quarterback? If I had to put words into Zac's mouth here, I would say just keep an eye on just general offensive, natural playmakers that just have a good feel for football, whatever that looks like.